Okay. Sure.
Hello viewers, I am Shubham.
Hi, I'm Nagrata.
We welcome you all to discuss this discussion. Today we will be talking about India March for Science and March for Science in general. First of all, let me introduce our guest, Ms. Deepthi. She is a Joint Secretary at Breakthrough Science Society. It is a All India Science organization, and she works at a financial company as a team lead. We welcome you, Deepthi Akka.
Hi. Nice to meet you, Shubham. Hi, Namrata.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Akka.
So, Deepthi ma'am is in constantly involved with all the activities which is happening in context with India March for Science in Karnataka region. So, I think she will be a better person to talk about this topic today. So, I once again welcome you all. Let's begin the discussion.
Hi, Dipti ma'am. We have seen March for Science happening globally from past 4 years. And will you tell us about what is this March for Science and how did it started? And it actually seems a little absurd to me that people have this need to start a science movement. So, could you tell us about March for Science?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Namrata. So basically, speaking about March for Science is basically an international science movement, which began in 2017. So if you see, right, it basically advocates science in the entire international sphere. What is the importance of science, the real awareness, touching different fields that each of us are working in. So it began with a series of rallies and marches in the April in 2017. Basically, it was the World Earth Day. So every year we observe this on April 22nd. So in 2007 as well, this was started on advocating science. Basically, a moment to celebrate science and what role does it play in our everyday lives. That's what the initial plan was, and that's how it has been since 4 years. So the goal, I would say, for the International March for Science is basically to emphasize the need of science that upholds the common good for people out there, and also for all the policies that are drafted in our country or any other country for that matter. All of it should be tested and evidence based. That's where the real interest of people would be served. So if you see, right, I mean, since 2017, across 600 cities, this march has been organized in various, continents. In fact, in 2017, Antarctica too observed, a couple of scientists went there, and they held placards, and then they spoke for a few minutes on what is the real need to advocate science in today's condition. So, having said this, I would say people, right from scientists, research scholars, school teachers, professors, lecturers, anybody who is in the field of science, including engineers, students, were all part of this. So, I would say it began with the moment of celebration, coming together for a common cause, which is science. So, I would sum it up, about March for Science at an international sphere, Namrata.
Okay, that was interesting, ma'am, to know that it was started as a celebration rather than a movement. So I would
Yeah.
I wanted to know that how India took part in this movement or this celebration, and what were the demands and what were the what was the voice of scientists when they took up this movement.
Right. So, if you see, right, just to tell you, when the march began across the entire world, basically, if you see in different countries, different policies had to be framed, very specific to their condition and their situation. So, if you remember, in 2016, the Paris Agreement was being signed.
Yes, yes.
right? So people did speak a lot about climate change. Many people denied it, too. So people came out and then asking that yes, this is something that's scientifically proved, but when you're actually devising some of these policies, why are you keeping science away from all the public discussions, which is not fair, right?
Correct.
So similar such situation happened in India. So speaking about India, we had this march organized in the month of August, which was 4 months later than the World March for Science. So on August 9, 2017, again, the appeal was drafted by various scientists across the entire country who believed that yes, a moment such as this would be necessary to propagate in the society and have as many more people to include in this framework. So, this appeal was basically a draft of important demands which were well suited to the Indian condition. So, speaking about that appeal and the demands, first important thing that came out was, see, in our constitution, we have this Article 51AH, which speaks about, promoting scientific temper and rationality. Now, this is very essential because we'll have to take it everywhere. So, it just shouldn't remain within textbooks that, our kids study. But in public life, and when you're framing certain policies, are you really inculcating scientific temper in all the spheres? That's where the necessity of promoting this particular demand came into picture. Moving on, then there was this budgeting. So most of you know, right, as scientists, when we work in our labs and in different research institutes, it comes with certain set of funds. You'll have to buy certain lab equipment, certain infrastructure that you're trying to build in any stream of science. So it comes with a cost. Now that cost will typically have to be borne by the government who's in charge, or the research institute who's accountable to give you the project to the respective scientists and their crew. Now, if you see in science in India, most of the research institutes, if you see, there are two parts there. One is there are certain government funded research institutes which are very handful, and there's another set of state universities which are also responsible for certain research. Now, these handful of institute, yes, they do get their major share of funds. However, speaking about the state institutes and universities, there's a lot of lack of funds. So that way, it's quite discouraging for people who take up science. They feel bad that just because there's no funds, is there really a priority to go take up this thing? And of course, their distant dream of getting into research, goes away, right? So the appeal actually said was basically to allocate about 30% of state's budget to the allocation that you're going to give it to the research institutes, and at an overall countrywide, the appeal asked for 3% of GDP just for science and technology. So up till now, if you see, probably it's about 0.8%, maybe even less now. We don't know what it is, but we need some fund to basically do our research. Right? So that was the next demand. Then going on, any public policies that the government or somebody who's in charge of devising, they must have it tested. More than testing, I would say, it has to be evidence based. So if you see today, we're all in the pandemic world where, people are going and doing research about medicines and cures and things like that. But when they come out with some of these papers, are they really evidence based? Whatever health policies that you devise, are they scientifically tested? That's still a question, right? So the India March for Science also appealed one of this demand, asking any policy that comes out must be evidence based. And then moving on, the education system that is in place, right? Whatever ideas are imparted, it shouldn't contradict any scientific evidence. So essentially, the kind of structure that our textbooks and the syllabus and things like that, the lesson plans that we have, everything should be under the framework of science. So it's a broader framework that we'll have to devise. So India March for Science is also an attempt to basically bring all the like-minded people in the field of science right from scientists, research scholars, all the science-loving people, to come to a common place and discuss and then see what can be done about that, just in order to benefit us and for the larger group of society. So yeah, that's something that I can speak about India March for Science.
Okay. Some interesting points came up, like you talked about research funding and the evidence-based this, policy making. So, is there
Right.
any change which has happened, like in the 4 years India March for Science is happening? So, has it impacted somehow to like force government to take up something? What was the impact of this movement on the government in general?
Okay, yeah. So the I mean I can say that the impact would be at the, I would say, at grassroots level, because the movement is still on. I would say,
Yeah.
and it would go on and on, right? So that way, if you see the impact as such, I would say uh, people have started talking about science and all the demands that we have actually placed. In fact, in this process, when we evolved, when we reached out to many scientists across and students in different colleges and universities, people did speak about, what is the reality of science in India today. And when you say that, you take up certain, courses which will basically help the growth of science in India. Of course, today you say technology is growing, right? But in order to have technology growing, you need the foundational level, which is your basic sciences, to improve.
Yeah.
But you see, right? Yeah, right. In the country at this point, the basic sciences have not gone beyond a level, right? And even if you go check out all your, textbooks and the kind of syllabus that students have at this point, are they really getting the actual hands-on that they must do, which will help some of these research? That's still a question. So I would say the impact really, I would say, as per the community has widened. There are many people who have come into this fold, who are actually talking, taking this idea to people, and then build a broader mass. So the series of 20, I mean, 2017 to 2020, our outreach has been increasing. That much I can say. Of course, the attempt is to get all these demand to formulate into a practical way. That's what essentially a demand is also about, right? So in between, we did bring out certain. I mean, there are so many unscientific ideas that came out from different people. So India March for Science also kept on, sending out their statements in this process, right from what happened in the Indian Science Congress, and right what happened with this COVID-19 vaccines, right? So this team was in the forefront of taking up some of these appeals and uh, reading out statements. So I would say at this point it would be a grassroots level outreach which has been a huge impact from the India March for Science.
Okay. That
So
was
does that mean India March for Science will happen every year? This movement will happen, and how one individual can support it? How can we participate in such science movements?
Yeah. So this is a good question because
one
the
second.
point.
One second, ma'am.
Yeah.
I think there is some audio disturbance from your end.
Okay.
Some
Should
people.
I mute?
Yeah. Yeah. You continue on.
Okay. Am I okay now? Is
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
okay?
It's fine.
So yeah, so when you say, how can people get in touch with us, I would say, we have a website there, which is, indiamarchforscience.in. Maybe, you can share it in the bottom.
Okay.
So idea is, we have a group of scientists, we are a group of, broad science like-minded people. So people can just drop us an email and they can get in touch. There's nothing like a membership or something right now at this point, because we're yet to give it a formal structure across the entire country. Of course, there are working committees which are called organizing committees in different states. So these organizing committees are basically responsible for plan of action in their respective states, right? So people can get in touch with us by just dropping us a mail there, which is there in the website. So we'll probably connect that way. So we'll know where we'll try to understand what each of the people who are interested can volunteer. I mean, volunteers who've actually got in touch with us this way. So based on that, we could certainly devise that. So it's pretty much easy. You just have to connect.
Yeah, okay.
That's
That sounds very interesting and very. We are all eager to join this moment in future.
Usually, people find science is boring and science is tough. We cannot implement in our daily life. I mean, they think like it's something apart from our personal life.
Yeah.
right.
So,
Right.
So yeah,
how
I,
can we engage in such a mindset to promote that idea that it's not something that is disconnected from personal life? It is a part of.
True. So, what I would say is, I totally agree with you. Science has become more like, okay, this is not my cup of tea. It's just like, um, if I really get good marks, then I should be taking science in my future courses and things like that. So, it's becoming more academic and course oriented kind of a domain. But having said that, since the time I have been with science movement and things like that, science is a way of life. That's something that each of us must understand, and this is what I understand. But the joy of science, the way I learned science, I think if this is something that if we imparted to our friends and colleagues, I think that's when we will do the real justice, and then that's how we can broaden our perspective. And most importantly, to build this so-called culture of science, right? We need to broaden our network, our communities, right from the families that we are in, right from our friends and neighbors that we are in. Build something that what people like and then connect it with science. So essentially, science is there. It's just that they'll have to realize, this aspect of my life is connected to science. So it could be, from any simple thing that, you show them a simple science experiment, connect it with their daily life, or, you could have a discussion, a friendly coffee talk, like just how we are doing it right now. So something of that sort, engage people, start asking questions, and, involve them in their own capacities. I think that's very essential. Uh, it's nothing like you give them some technological or a big research project to do. No, that's not science, right? So this is how we all can take benefits of science and add the joy to others. So that's something in a nutshell for you.
yeah, that is very much like uh, joyful, and it feels good to know, good to hear that science is a way of life, and it gives joy. Yeah, it truly does. And we have seen like people like many bigger scientists enjoying the science as they enjoy other art forms and other things.
Right.
So yeah, I do. Uh,
So we have witnessed the India March for Science this year, a month back. So how did it went this year? Can you tell us what are the things that happened this year? How people engaged
Sure.
altogether?
Yeah, Namrata, I think this time we had a different, way of doing this India March for Science. Of course, it was pandemic time.
yeah,
None of us come out, so all of us know that. So this time we thought we'll go, online, and we'll see how we can involve folks. So essentially, what we did was we enrolled, people to participate in different science competitions, which was we had competitions like poster making, cartooning, and then we had science poetry where you just brought up, right, Shubham, on art
yeah,
and science. Where we thought we'll
yeah,
have this part, and we saw a good number of participation in that, where people submitted their entries, and we saw really creative things. So we gave them broad set of themes, right, from COVID-19 to environment to general things about science, right? So this basically give them a platform to participate, and of course they would get to know about India Much for Science this way. This was one part, and the second thing was we actually had series of webinars right from that. So basically, India March for Science here in India we observe it on August 9th. So right from August 3rd until August 9th, we had a series of webinars. We had a wide range of topic, right from teaching critical thinking to children, to COVID-19 and pandemic, to nuclear energy, climate change, evolution, media and science. I mean, you can all watch it online. It's all there as an archive. Uh, we had about close to 23 speakers who came and spoke their ideas. And in fact, the Facebook page where we actually went live, I think the outreach has probably gone beyond 25,000. I just looked up to it yesterday. So it's still going viral. So please do share it, of course, right now. So it's I mean, that part of outreach has been tremendous. So, with the limitation that we had with respect to pandemic time, we did have these two things going on, and we did express people to enroll themselves as members. Like Namrata asked, how could people join and things like that. So we asked people to get back and then contact, and many of them have become members of our science organization. Breakthrough. So we are looking for different ways to engage them in future and see how well we can have their services. So yeah, that was 2020 for us. Absolutely, absolutely. It was online and we had fun. That much I can say. So yeah.
Yeah. So we came to end of our discussion, ma'am. So we have a segment. We have some follow-up questions based upon our discussion.
All right.
So you can answer in them in a shorter way.
Sure.
So my first question is climate change real? And why is there another thought process which says it is not real? And why it is why this thought process is out?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so so I am
Because I don't work in
of course I
climate
don't
change
work in climate
sciences
or something, but with my information that I have is yes, certainly it is real because first thing is there are commendable number of scientists who have proved that it exists, and to the kind of climate and weather changes that we're constantly witnessing here, I think it certainly is. You see, the with globalization and the kind of industrial activities that are going on at this point, all the urban cities that we are all living in, they're having a huge hit. So where you're supposed to have summer, no, this lot of disturbance going on. At least with the way I live every day, I can say that yes, it is true and it's real. And the amount of fossil fuels and things that are being burned. I mean, you see, right? Just 2 days ago, what happened in the California, San Francisco, the orange sky going on there. I mean, how much more do you want to prove that climate change does not exist? So yeah, there is a certain group which says that yes, it does not exist, and they have their own motives to deny it. But if they really want, they could come out and then start discussing it openly as to why it is not true, and things like that. But yeah, they're both certain. They have their own plans. So this is all I can speak about why that group is not accepting. But at a larger thought process, if you ask, certainly we'll have to work towards what we can do about our environment, because we're seeing a series of floods and droughts in our own country, right? So what is necessary at a right from the agricultural perspective, it's going to hit the farmers at the end of the day, and then there's no food production is going to hit us, right? What can be done? We need a team that can work towards it. And we as citizens, what can we do? I think this is something that we must evolve. Uh, Talking to different, people who are working in those areas. So I think we need a right set of action plan, which will help us in the longer run. So yeah, that's about climate change that I can speak of. Sure.
Whenever we talk about climate change, one thing which pops up to the mind is this global warming. is it humanly
Right.
possible now to stop or even reduce the rate of climate global warming? Like, is it possible
Yeah.
to stop the global warming?
Yeah, right. So, see, if you ask right now, yes, it will take certain, I would say, decades to have the effect go away. Yeah, finally, at the end of the day, climate change, who's responsible? Of course, it's a man-made activity. Okay, so yeah, different sectors. Do we really want to use that and have the greenhouse effect thing done? I think we'll have to get into concretes and specifics on different areas as to where can we reduce. You speak about renewable energy. Yes, all of something that we could adopt. Do we really need nuclear energy at this point? I think that's a question again, really, right? Uh, what is feasible? What is long lasting for a better future, so that everybody's safe and the future generation can reap the benefits? I think some of these things must be put into the policies that we devise whenever we take up some of these big ones. Okay, like say for example, here in India also, when we spoke about this environment impact assessment, right? So that was a most widely spoken thing, and then many of us did submit our suggestions to the team which was working on it. Now you see, there's a lot of damage that's done to our nature. Many wildlife sanctuaries are going away. You see some wild animals coming into urban cities and things like that. And yeah, the recent thing that happened in California where there are wildfires, I mean, these are like openly happening now. Who's going to work on it and who's going to do it? I think we need a bigger, broad-based masses to come close and then see why you're doing this. You're destroying nature, and what is the benefit for common people? Tomorrow you don't have trees around you. How sustainable is it going to be for you to live, right? It's in fact causing a lot of health disorders also, right? I mean, we did experience, people are facing some upper respiratory infections and things like that. So I think these things must be widely spoken, Shubham. So there's no, but if people come together as a common, community and then do things, I think I would say, yeah, climate change, you can solve it. It may not be now, a couple of decades back.
True. Hopefully the government listens to the scientists and the scholars and gear up the things and do the right decision. So
Yeah,
hopefully
you
our
would too.
this movement works.
True.
So Navrata.
Yeah, so we have seen scientists, science educators, and many science communicators from so many years just promoting science. And but this is 2020. This is technology era, but we still don't see this scientific thinking and scientific temper that many people support, majorly in India. With a large population, we expect advancement in science. Why is it so?
Yeah. So I think that's something that I brought it up in the beginning also. See, we are seeing advancement in technology and not advancement in science. Now, when you say science, yes, it's a wholesome idea of, there's a process, there's a scientific method that somebody has to follow. It's not limited to, your research labs alone, but in our own lives, what is it? You have a problem, you go find out, you test it, you experiment, and then if it fails, you rework on that. This entire process, right? This process of thinking and questioning, I think this is a kind of culture that we must bring in our, society. Uh, had it been right, we would have questioned a lot of things going around. See, people ignore what's going around at their own places. Now, the scientific thinking, I would say, is the only instrument to actually come up with, to seek answers. First is to find truth. So, then finding truth. I think that's the ultimate goal of science too, right? Now, if you'll have to seek truth, you'll have to pass through certain stages. It's not just going to drop as it is, right? And it's an arduous effect, I would say. it's not that it's going to be easy. In 1 or 2 days you will seek your answer. Scientists we have seen, previously, like Albert Einstein or Galileo, Newton, Bruno, people have spent their entire lifetime to actually give up their entire thing for science. Madame Curie is a finest example too. She gave up her life. Of course, I would say, the basic point of, the questioning mind of, implementing scientific thinking, not just to academics, nothing to do with academics, but in your own personal life, as long as that becomes your basic instinct, things will still remain the same as what you do. So, in order to do that, I think we need people who believe that yes, this is something we'll have to do it for people out there to come and join hands and then devise creative ideas, programs, community building activities, awareness programs to the people out there, and then have them in your fold and become one family. I think that is what science educators, science communicators can do at this point. So I think that's the goal of science as well, right? When you say
Yes.
science, a way of life, you just make sure that you lead your life with people around you. You are experiencing the joy of life. Why not impart the joy to others and bring them in your fold? So that's how you can do. And to get into specifics, I think we'll have to build networks with scientists, research scholars, and within our own communities, build certain groups and clubs where you can bring children, devise interesting creative activities for them, where they can become torch bearer of yes, we will defend science for future. So I think that's something that the generation today must take up. So it could be anything, right? From you help them, building simple science experiment kits. Why do you want to build that science experiment kit? No, it's not for academics, but yes, this make them understand to go through that process of scientific thinking and scientific method, so that they apply it in their daily lives. Take them out, take them for a nature walk. Have them gaze the sky, give them some idea about how scientists actually dedicated their lives, experience let them experience the joy of life out there, the nature there, and understand the laws and principle that are responsible for things around us. Yeah, give them that deep idea. I think that's how we can build our community and take this group forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I can say and yeah, speak to.
Yes, Rajni, yes, Dipti, ma'am. One thing I wanted.
Actually,
Yeah. Yeah. Rashmi, no, no.
I actually have one question. So
Yeah.
I don't see many Nobel laureates from India. There are so many Nobel laureates from US, UK, so many people, but very few examples in India. And is there any specific reason that we don't have many such scientists who won Nobel Prize?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, I think after C.V. Raman, we've not seen anybody who's actually won Nobel Prize. We have seen Indians who are not here, but abroad, but have won Nobel Prizes, right? I mean, this fact itself speaks to the question that you asked, Namrita. The ground for building research, I think that's where we lack. Otherwise, had it been great, smooth, and if we had advancements, the country would have produced a lot many Nobel laureates that we actually think of in the field of science. So this is where it comes down to. I think necessary funding, the infrastructure that you really need to do your research, and research not just for research sake. I would say research for the benefit of society is finally going to yield. I mean, not for Nobel Prize alone, but yes, the real contribution for science that is supposed to be doing, Nobel Prize would just come as part of it, is what I would say. So, yeah, I think that kind of a ground we must lay down for better facilities and infrastructure for research.
Okay. I actually had one question. If we see the history of mankind, it was always the science which has came to the rescue. It, from the agriculture revolution, from the taking man on the moon, and from
Right.
protecting us from the infections and diseases. It was always which
Right.
has science has was the frontier in protecting humankind. But
Correct.
we live in the current situation where major world leaders and major influencers are denying science. They are ignoring science-based policies, or they are denying science. Basically, they are denying major facts of science. I feel that from this observation, I feel that science is in the danger, or science is being hostage. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay. So, see, there may be deniers of science right from the time we saw climate change, the previous time that you asked me. It's okay. I mean, that's their thing. We can't impose them asking that you have to believe in science. No, but like you said, right, in the history of mankind as well, science has been the savior and the frontier. There's a reason for it as well, right? Because science comes with its own set of methods and principles. Until and unless you apply it correctly, right, you won't get your outcome on that. It may take time, which is okay. But if you ask, science isn't, yeah, certainly to an extent it is in danger. But there are, a good amount of people who are also saying that yes, science is and will come to rescue. Finally, science will come to rescue when it happens in your own lives. I think a bigger disease like COVID-19, yes, when the vaccine is out there tomorrow in a couple of months, people would say yes, thanks to science. So essentially, deniers can be there, Shubham. Let's not worry about that section. It's okay. But let's keep focusing on the better part of science, that the scientific method in the crux can actually do. Eventually people will start accepting, yes, this is the only way. So we will give it its own time. People will accept quite soon. So yeah,
Yeah, we can only hope and have science in our hands.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I had this question: how do we popularize science? But I think you have already answered that question by building
Okay.
networks and everything. So you are a part of BSS from so many years, and we have been associated with BSS from few years too. So could you tell us about how BSS has started, its history, and what is the motto of BSS? How does it involve itself in
Yeah.
India?
Right, right. Sure, Namrata. So, yeah, I've been part of Breakthrough Science Society from, I would say, last 15 years now. So, now Breakthrough Science Society, basically, it's a voluntary science organization. It's an all India organization. Believes in promoting and inculcating scientific temper. So, we did speak about it. This is an organization doing that. So, if you see the aims and objectives, we believe that, science is a way out. Scientific temper must be taken to people out there. So the motto per se, we call it, science in thinking, science for, man, science for people, and science for society. So, uh, idea is taking science to society. We learn things about, via science, but how do you apply it for the societal change? That's what really matters, and that's where Breakthrough is also working towards it. So, uh, I mean, we are in different states, that we're close to 20 to 23 states right now, whose active committees working. So, what we do is we go to different institutions, we build science clubs, and then we, form a committee there, and then activize that. So, like I said earlier, right? We need to build out that network. So this is one of the way that we do, and then we have some local level groups that we associate with, like I'm doing some program within my own apartment where I bring children, and yeah, I have given them membership, so that way they're accountable that yes, I'm a member of Breakthrough Science Society and I have some responsibility to do that. And we have like series of programs that are open out for kids. So right from we give them some training in some experiment demonstration for science experiments, and then some workshops on doing sky gazing. The night sky gazing program has been a huge hit right from November to March, where we take them outside, and then we own a couple of telescopes where, to excite them about science. That's fundamental for us, right? And then we do have certain groups working at college units also, where there are volunteers who are working with us and do a lot of seminars. And so this way we are building grassroots level clubs and forums to integrate them under the umbrella of Breakthrough Science Society. So it's very easy. I mean, people can connect when we go there. We talk about science, and of course we make sure that we invite scientists who are in touch with us to speak to the students out there, and of course to common people. We do a lot of public programs. Very recent time, again because of pandemic, we've been doing a lot of webinars. We've been able to do about close to 12, no, I would say 20 webinars across Karnataka alone, I would say. Of course, again, you can go and watch it out right there in our Facebook and YouTube channel. Yeah, this is about Breakthrough. Yeah, I forgot about the history. It started in 1995. Group of scientists there in West Bengal actually started there. And when I said that science to society aspect, we did have this accomplishment from Breakthrough, where the water, the drinking water was getting polluted there in West Bengal. So from Breakthrough, so what happened was the water was detected with high concentration of arsenic, and that's not drinkable, right? People were drinking, and then they were seeing a lot of skin issues and hair issues and things like that. So that's where we thought, let's apply science to society. So what we did is we built certain water testing kits from Breakthrough, and then we took it to people, and then we asked them to test it, and then that became a larger movement. And then later on the authorities came and then diverted pipes and things like that. So this is one of the achievement of taking science to society. Of course, there's another thing that I forgot to tell. We did a science drama also in Karnataka in 2011. That was on this superstition and things like that, which are very predominant in areas of Karnataka, especially North Karnataka side. It's called Bhanamati, and that was basically where these very deadly beliefs take up people's lives. I mean, see in rural areas some of these areas, right? So that was a huge hit. We had it played across 5 districts in Karnataka. So this was a different attempt that we tried, and yeah, so on and so forth. We have to evolve with a lot of other programs to engage with public. So yeah, that's Breakthrough for you.
That's actually nice to know about BSS. So, if anyone wants to be a member of BSS, then is there any qualification, or anyone can be a part of BSS? Like, how one can be a member?
So the only qualification is they have to be 8 years and above. That's it. There's nothing else.
Okay.
To become a member of Breakthrough. You just have to fill up a form there. Now we have just recently evolved a web form. Of course, now we've divided between membership for kids and for the others. So that becomes easier for them to devise programs for the children's section. So yeah, probably I'll just share the link. You can share it with.
It's actually nice to know that even the kids can be part of BSS. From the childhood, we can teach them the scientific temper, the scientific thinking. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
It was really nice talking to you, Dipti ma'am. It was very fun and interesting. We learnt a lot, and it was very nice conversation. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. And
thank you, Shubham. Thank you, Namrata. Absolutely. I think the feeling is mutual here. I had a really good time.
Yes.
And certainly looking forward to meet you again and again.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you once again on this. Yeah.
We'll surely invite you back, and we will not.
Even we are looking forward for having you in the future discussions.
Sure. Thank you, Shubham.
This was really nice discussion. Yeah.
I would say I had a wonderful evening on a Saturday. So yeah.
Yeah, same here, same here. Okay. So
Thanks so
that's
much,
all,
Deepti
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
You.
Bye.